We're waiting, waiting on the world to change. We're still waiting, waiting for the world to change. Waiting, waiting for the world to change. We're waiting, waiting for the world to change.
Good morning. You are welcomed in worship this morning. We are all welcome. We all worship in different ways. If that means you need nursery care for your children 5 and younger, we have that available. If that means you need hearing devices, we have those available, as well as a T-coil system. If that means you need something quiet to do with your hands, we have manipulatives for all ages in the narthex. With that, let us deepen into the spirit of worship with these words. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. When the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. When our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again. When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid love will never return. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. Now please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, We Shall Not Be Moved.
Welcome. I'm Reverend Meredith. I'm one of the ministers here, and I'm so glad that you've chosen to worship with us at the Unitarian Church this morning. I have a couple announcements, and then I have something that I want to say to all of you. So first, because of the weather conditions, we're going to be consolidating our middle hour programming for children. So we're going to have pre-K through K in room 2 for Chalice children, and all other folks will be in the fellowship hall making throws. for the crew of cardboard at the Mid-City Gras Parade. Our adult programming is going to be canceled as well so that folks can attend the board's town hall meeting on the budget. So I encourage folks to go to that. Lee, this is kind of a prayer/statement if you want to play some music. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge the killing yesterday of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. To all of you, this community I serve as one of your ministers, I am sorry that this is the time in which we live. I am sorry this is something you are seeing and feeling the impacts of. I'm sorry that we are living under a government that does this to its people, for speaking out, for protesting, for helping each other. I don't know a lot, but here is what I do know. When we stop seeing each other, caring for each other, we lose our humanity. We know that what happened in Minneapolis could easily happen here in Baton Rouge or in several other places around this country. What happens to one of us happens to all of us, and we cannot give up. We cannot allow our hearts to be hardened and closed off to one another. We need to show up now more than ever. I want to believe that the tide now is turning. So let's take a few breaths here together. Across the silence in this room, we acknowledge the pain, the fear, the grief, the rage, the terror, and all the rest of the feelings that are here. And we are blessed to be able to gather here this morning in a place where we can bring our full selves, our full feelings, where we can keep our hearts open, even despite the pain, where we know that the world is better because we each are here, where we know that we are not alone. May it be so. Amen. This morning, we care for our community and we show support with cards. We send healing thoughts to Paul Berry after a fall. We are sending a Thinking of You card to Kayla Saltz after a stay in the hospital. And we're also sending healing thoughts to Gabe Patton after a car accident. He's recovering well. I'd like to invite folks at this time to come forward and to place a stone in the chalice. The stone can represent anything that you're carrying that you want to bring into this space this morning. Please come forward along the east and west walls. We light our chalice this morning with these words. With hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is a symbol of the power of love. Our story this morning is called The Smallest Girl in the Smallest Grade. Hardly anyone noticed young Sally McCabe. She was the smallest girl in the smallest grade.
Sure, her name could be heard in the daily roll call, and she marched with her books down the same school hall.
But hardly anyone noticed young Sally McCabe.
And they certainly didn't know, or at least didn't mention, that Sally was paying super extra special attention to the abandoned kite with the tangled string, to the 27 keys on the janitor's ring, to the leaves as they turned green gold in the fall, and the time Tommy Torino was tripped in the hall.
She watched as the wildflowers tipped toward the light and heard the howl of a hound dog late one night. She was there when the stray cats who normally fought conducted a meeting in the church parking lot. She saw Kevin McEwen get pushed off a slide and the oncoming tears that he wanted to hide.
And she'll never forget that parent-teacher day when Billy's much larger father suddenly dragged him away.
But through all the mean words and all the cold stares,
no one even noticed that Sally was there, and they certainly didn't know, or at least didn't mention,
that Sally was paying super extra special attention.
She'd seen how a whisper could make someone cower like a bulldozer crushing through the fields of wildflowers.
And it kept piling up, this discarded debris, those beautiful kites tangled in trees.
So, on February the 3rd at 11:29,
Sally stepped straight out of the lunchroom line. She said,
"I'm tired of seeing this terrible stuff. Stop hurting each other. This is enough."
Now a few laughed out loud or didn't care that there was some girl with her hand in the air.
But then something super extra special happened on that day as Howard O. Henry suddenly set down his tray. Like waves rolling in one after the other, first Molly rose, then Michael's twin brother.
It was Tyrone and Terrence, then Amanda and Paul, who pushed out their chairs and stretched their arms tall. From the friendly lunch lady with the dishes she carted, to that new third-grade teacher who had only recently started. Yes, everyone there, even Principal Claire, had joined little Sally with their fingers in the air.
As the world returned to the way that it was, Sally noticed the difference, as she usually does, when Billy paused briefly to open the door for Mrs. O'Connell.
And 17 more.
Or when Molly scooched over to make some space on the coral riser for Ellen and Grace.
These moments that often get taken for granted, a wildflower appearing that no one had planted.
The swings soon resumed their rhythm and sway.
And the day turned to night, and night turned to day.
And people remembered and would quite often mention
that Sally had been paying super extra special attention.
And how the world could transform, a change could be made
by the smallest girl in the smallest grade.
This is an original song that I wrote over 20 years ago, but sadly the lyrics are even more true today than they were 20 years ago. The song is called Web of Deceit. How do they keep on stealing from the mouths of the poor and keep on sweeping lives away like dust from the floor? They bury history by historicizing lies weaving webs of words that trap them just like flies. Can you read between the lines? The lies such a thin disguise. Can you see or are you blind? Please don't let them take your mind. The doctors claim to have the patient's cure. They bleed the children and claim the motive's pure. Stand up, and let the people know. They can't keep us all ignorant. We will fight for the lives of the innocent. And shine light on the webs of deceit.
Good morning. Much of what we are taught about power suggests that it only counts when it's loud, official, sanctioned, when it comes from podiums, policies, or other positions of what we consider to be authority. But history tells a more complicated truth. Many of the changes we take for granted did not begin with permission. They began with refusal. And I want to tell you a short story that my mother and her friends used to talk about. My brother and I used to think it was funny. We used to think it was a joke, but it wasn't that. When things desegregated, it wasn't just schools. It was a lot of the institutions that used to be separate and based on race. One of them was hospitals. And so one of my mother's friends was a nurse, and she was the only black nurse on the floor. So when some visitors came and they were looking around the hospital, one of the white nurses goes and she says to this black nurse, "Let me tell you something. Whenever you see me do this, this means you jump to it. You come here, you come right now." And the black nurse says, "And when I do this, it means I ain't coming." So that framework helps us understand that kind of action. And a scholar, James C. Scott, uses the term infrapolitics to describe how people push back against unjust systems when those systems cannot be trusted to change themselves. Infrapolitics is not about passivity, it is about withholding consent. It's about redirecting energy. It's about protecting life and refusing to cooperate with harm, especially when compliance is easier, safer, or more socially rewarded. In other words, it's about saying, I ain't coming. Infrapolitics helps us see that resistance doesn't always look like protest, but it always involves a decision. What will I no longer agree to? What will I stop normalizing? What will I refuse to carry? What will I say, This matters because not all silence is the same. For some, silence has been imposed. For others, it's been a choice, and a really comfortable one. In a society structured by racial and economic inequality, moral responsibility is not evenly distributed. And for me, as a person who lives in this body, my silence and my refusal has different implications than someone who lives in a white male body, for instance. Those who have benefited the most from unjust systems have also had the greatest ability to remain unbothered by them. In other words, whether they're the ones saying, come here, or they've benefited. Sacred refusal asks something different from each of us. It asks us to refuse the lie that neutrality is harmless, to refuse the idea that having good intentions are enough, to refuse the comfort of distance when harm is close at hand, even if we are not personally harmed. Sacred refusal is not about being reactive. It's not about being self-righteous. It's about aligning our values with our behavior, even when that alignment costs us something. And unfortunately, we've seen exactly what that cost can be. It is the decision to stop participating in what dehumanizes, even when that participation is expected. So today's service is shaped by that understanding. It's about what shaped that, I ain't coming. We're gonna take time and affirm ourselves during our time together, not to soothe guilt, not to mend any open wounds, but to ground our courage. We're gonna name the concrete ways people practice refusal in everyday life, how they interrupt harmful norms, challenge unjust expectations, and withdraw cooperations from systems that demand and depend on our compliance. And finally, we're going to take a small action, not because small actions are symbolic, but because small refusal often begins with just one deliberate choice. This service isn't about purity. It's just about, let me tell you what I ain't gonna do. I'm not gonna admonish you to be respectable, quiet citizens, to keep conversations about injustice in your own circles. I'm not gonna criticize you if you do. I refuse to give myself a pass for keeping quiet and choosing the safe option, even when I have no guarantee of support or success. It's kind of the way I've always been. Today's service is not about proving that we are good people. It's about becoming more honest about where our lives intersect with harm and what we are willing to stop doing because of that truth. Infrapolitics reminds us that power isn't just exercised by institutions. It's exercised by ordinary people every time they say, ain't coming, to what degrades humanity, and yes, to what sustains it. Sacred refusal is one way we practice faith, not as a belief, but as a behavior. So, as we move through this service, I invite you to listen to what is being asked of you. Notice where you already feel resistance rising in your body. Right now, I'm feeling it right here in the middle. I've been carrying that. Notice where refusal feels overdue. Notice where the things we do today as we go through them appear in your body. Because the question today is not whether injustice exists. We know it does. It's whether we're willing to refuse to keep cooperating with it in any way. And now, right where you're sitting, I invite you to our next hymn, There's More Love Somewhere.
I'm gonna keep
Now I want to invite you into a moment I know I need, and I'm sure many of us need, just in general. I invite you, as you're willing or able, to get in a position that feels comfortable in your body as much as you're able and willing to. I invite you to close your eyes. Where have you learned to be careful? Where in your life have you learned to endure? And whatever that brings up for you, I want you to ask yourself gently, where has my faith shown up quietly? What have I done to survive that no one looked on me and blessed? What wisdom did I learn without permission? Just hold these in silence. Hold them in your heart. And I want you to notice how you feel in your body. And if you don't feel anything in your body, and if you're feeling numb, I want you to honor that too. Let us just sit with ourselves in this moment. I invite you to gently inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. You are not required to be loud, to be faithful. You are not required to be visible, to be powerful. Hold these words in your body. You are not required to be loud, to be faithful. You are not required to be visible, to be powerful. I invite you to take another inhale and exhale. And when you are ready, open your eyes and come back to the room. Take your time. Welcome back. When I was in the 5th grade or so, stickers were more valuable than diamonds. And they came in all shapes and sizes. They were puffy. They were scented. They were plastic. They were paper. They were plain. They were glittery. Any adjective you can think of, there was a sticker for it. Now, each of us had a big poster board in that classroom. It was a poster board ribbon, like, you know, the prize ribbon that's round with the flaps, and it had our name on it. And because my teacher was cool, we got to pick a sticker from a special bowl and take it home, especially when we did something great. And me, being the classic overachiever that I am, and an A student, I was cartel level sticker holders. Like, not only did I have like full up ribbon full of stickers, I had the book in my locker with the stickers, I walked around with the stickers, I traded with my friends. I was so bougie that I had a whole separate album just for the stickers that I was gonna give away because I didn't think they were that interesting, you know. But I had a little class with it. I had that guac, I had that drip. When it was time for stickers, I was your girl. Then our school came up with several new rules about what we could and could not wear and how we had to wear our hair. So I grew up in a small rural town, and a lot of the things that, you know, you all have today in schools about rules being race neutral or applying to all, or maybe not being gender specific or including more than one gender didn't exist. It doesn't mean that those people and those circumstances didn't exist. It's simply that school rules did not address it and we did not use language. So I want to make that very clear. I'm not discounting. I'm just telling you what did and did not exist way back in the day. And we didn't have uniforms in our schools at the time. So rules were a lot of times targeted on race and gender. And the way that the school understood gender was binary gender, male, female students. So for example, regulations about how short your skirt could be, or whether or not you could wear biking shorts. Y'all know what biking shorts are? Okay, I see some young people in here like biking shorts. You know, the workout pants, but they're shorts and they're really shiny. At least back in the day they were. They were added to the list. Boys couldn't wear muscle shirts, you know, the sleeveless shirts. But the rule that stood out to me was about hair. Black students could not wear their hair in afros. Black boys could not wear braids. And white boys could not wear any style that touched the top of their ears. So they either had to have a really short cut or they had to have that awful bowl cut. Sorry if y'all love a bowl cut, but it was, you gotta understand, this was Charleston, Mississippi, and it was a bad bowl cut. Like, it's giving Three Stooges bowl cut. Anyway, to enforce these rules, our principal called this big assembly. We were told about the rules. We were given, the law was laid down. If you didn't follow these rules, if anybody was caught out of compliance, you would get a warning, you would get a demerit, you could have a loss of recess, you could have an in-school suspension, like he just ran this down. And finally, you could be asked to leave the school if you didn't comply. Yeah, we kicked out of school for a haircut. We were given notes that our parents had to sign, and then we had to bring those notes back signed by the end of the week. And if you didn't do that, you would be penalized for that too. So when we got back to class, our teacher, again, she went over the new rules, and she warned us, please come to school in order, and you will not have any issues. But I had a question. So I said, I get it. But why does how we wear our hair matter? And so like this was the 90s, y'all. So y'all know white boys were doing like Kurt Cobain type deal. You know, black boys were like doing Allen Iverson, you know, and this was just popular. So what was the problem? But my teacher said, these are against the new rules. I said, I understand they're against the new rules, but why? Like, what's the reasoning behind? And she just told me, look, these are just the rules. And she said, you know what? Just table the question. You don't need to keep asking. You're being disruptive. And so when the principal came by, because sometimes our principal will come by at the end of the day and just speak and look in and check on everybody. You know, he's, how y'all doing? And blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, hey, I have a question. And he told me that that was just the rules and that we had to follow him. And I said, well, that's not a good enough answer. And the class was like, oh, you know. And I said, but I'm not trying to be funny, y'all. This is not a good enough answer, because some people are gonna have to cut their hair or change their whole style. And what about the teachers? The teachers gonna have to do it too? Because it's not fair. I don't think anybody should have to follow a rule unless we kind of understand it. It's not fair. And my teacher, you know, at the time, you know, she kind of had, you know, the hairstyle, but I said, you gonna cut your hair? Because everybody else has cut their hair. And the principal told me to follow him to the office. And they called my parents. And this is a small town. My mother just was down the way, so she came. And I told him the same thing. I said, Mom, I'm sorry. This is just not good enough. I'm just trying to understand. I just don't understand. Now, I got in trouble for talking back because my mother was like, well, you know, you're asked to do something. They told you to stop. You disobeyed. You should have stopped. They told you to table the discussion. You didn't follow it, and you kept pushing it. So that's talking back. Got in trouble for that. And so when, you know, but I came back to school the next day. I was a good kid. So the next day, we had to come back to school. I noticed some people had taken down their braids. Some people had haircuts. Some people had tried to make it look like a haircut, but it wasn't a haircut. Some had different clothes. And so when we stood to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, I said, I'm not going to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And the teacher asked me, well, why? I said, because there is not liberty and justice for all. Liberty means we can wear our hair the way we want to wear our hair. It means you answer our questions. It means you treat us like we're smart enough to understand why. There's no liberty here. So y'all, guess what my teacher did? Bruh. She made me go and take a sticker off of my ribbon. And then I had to throw the sticker in the trash. I was devastated. But I knew I had done the right thing. And my friends knew that when the queen of all stickers has to throw away, I mean, they comforted me. They surrounded me, they gathered around me, they made sure I was okay. I pretended I was okay. And then I asked, well, when it's time to say the pledge again, y'all gonna, I'm not saying the pledge, y'all gonna say the pledge? Well, a few of them said they would not say the pledge with me. But when it was time to say the pledge, only 3 of them refused, and we all got sent to the office again. I'm gonna leave the story right there. I'll tell you a little bit more later. And now, let's move into our offering. Our shared offering this month is with the Dialogue on Race. Oh yeah, they're very good, right? Dialogue on Race, Louisiana Dialogue. All right. So we ask that you give generously. We ask visitors, you're under no obligation to give. We're practicing giving, but you're also welcome to give if you feel so moved. And at this time, I ask the ushers to come forward as today's offering is gratefully given and received.
And the men who hold high places must be the ones who start to mold a new reality closer to the heart, closer to the heart. The blacksmith and the artist reflected in their art. They forged their creativity closer to the heart, closer to the heart. Philosophers and plowmen, each must know his part to sow a new mentality closer to the heart, closer to the heart. You can be the captain, and I will draw the chart. Sailing into destiny, closer to the heart, closer to the heart, closer to the heart, closer to the heart.
So for a sacred refusal, this sacred refusal ritual, we're going to be naming a kind of power that often gets overlooked in faith communities. Power is not about dominance or visibility. A lot of times it's just about refusal. We live in a culture that tells us change is only real when it's loud, when it's dramatic, when it can be photographed, when it can be applauded. But history shows us something else. Many of the most lasting changes began when people said no, not in public, not in front of a round of applause, but in their daily lives. This ritual centers sacred refusal. Refusal as a spiritual practice, refusal as a moral discipline, refusal as a way to reclaim the integrity that has been stripped from so many of us in our communities. We're doing this in community because when we are here together, we are at our most powerful. We're going to hear a reading that names what we must refuse. Then we'll listen, we'll affirm, and then we'll take a small action that's real and achievable. So for the first part of this ritual, I'll ask Reverend Meredith and our worship associate Melanie to please come forward with our reading.
Today we gather to name a truth that many systems did not want us to say out loud. Some tools cannot dismantle the house they were built to maintain. Audre Lorde said it plainly, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. That sentence is not a critique of effort, it is a call to discernment.
When we talk about change, we often imagine that we can fix injustice by working harder within the structures that harm us or those in our community. We may imagine we can make a broken system more fair by becoming better players in the same game. But the master's house was built to survive. It was built to protect itself. And the tools it provides are designed to keep it standing.
Lord reminds us that there is a difference between reform and transformation. Reform is polishing. Transformation is rupture. If the foundation is built on domination, exploitation, racism, fascism, sexism, violence, hatred, no amount of polishing and manipulation will make it just. No amount of shine takes away from its power.
Bell Hook writes about how systems of domination survive by turning human beings into objects to be consumed, objects to be used, displayed, marketed, and made into commodities. She calls this the politics of eating the other. This is not only about race or culture, it is also about how we are taught to consume some people's pain, people's stories, people's bodies, as if they exist for our use. When we do this, we are using the master's tools.
So what does sacred refusal look like? It looks like refusing to participate in systems that require us to profit from someone else's suffering. It looks like refusing to allow our compassion to be used as a way to soothe our own guilt without changing anything. It looks like refusing to be satisfied with small reforms that keep the structure intact.
Sacred refusal is not a performance. It is not a statement we make once and then forget. It is a daily practice of deciding, what will I stop doing? What will I stop normalizing? What will I refuse to accept as just the way things are?
Refuse the tools that maintain harm. Refuse the stories that erase people. Refuse the systems that turn humans into objects. Refuse the quiet complicity of comfort.
We are not called to be perfect. We are called to be awake. And the first step towards awakening is naming what we have been taught to accept.
Let us remember, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. But our refusal, sacred, deliberate, persistent, can.
I was born by the river in a little old tent. And just like that river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. It's been so hard living, I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's out there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. I go to the movies, I go downtown. People keep telling me, don't you hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. I say to my brother, I I said, brother, help me, please. Help me, please. He winds up knocking me down, back to my knees. There have been times when I've thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come.
And now for our sacred action. This is a sacred action that we can all take together. It's really simple. We're going to refuse to participate in other people's suffering. Here's the action that I invite you to take. Choose just one thing. Remember the little girl from our story who just held up her finger? Will you hold up your finger as you're willing and able? Just one thing that you're going to stop doing this week that supports systems of harm. It could be refusing to share a story of someone's pain without their consent. It could be refusing to buy from a company that profits from exploitation. It could be refusing to participate in conversations that degrade other people. It could be refusing to consume media that turns marginalized people into spectacle. It could be refusing to accept a workplace policy that harms people and just pretends that it's just how things are. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to make it public. I'm not going to ask you to share it here. What I'm going to invite you to do right now is to take a moment of silence just to decide where you're going to join me in refusing. So I invite you to close your eyes if you wish, but just think about what it is that you can commit to, that you can refuse. Today, when we leave this place, I want you to carry that refusal with you as a form of holding sacred space, of sacred integrity. And now I'll finish the story about what happened with the stickers. The three other folks who refused to say the pledge until we got our answer, we never got our answer. We were made to apologize to the class for being disruptive. But I didn't care about that. But the issue was, because I didn't mean it, but the issue was, for me, removing that sticker. It taught me that sometimes refusing to follow along can be uncomfortable. But after that, I didn't care about being rewarded for good behavior. I still loved stickers. And I was still cartel level, do not get it twisted. The queen did not fall off her throne. But I collected stickers on my own terms, a little bit more. So today at the end of service, and we're gonna be ending here in just a few seconds, I brought stickers for anyone who'd like one. Because an act of refusal when you know things are wrong deserves a little love. And because maybe a cool little sticker to remind us of just how sacred we are is a cool thing too. And y'all, these are really cool stickers, so I'll definitely share with anyone who's willing to have one. So now, I invite you to rise for our closing hymn, Lift My Sister Up.
My sister up with my heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. If I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, I will fall down. I'm gonna lift my neighbor up, they are not happy. I'm gonna lift my neighbor up, they are not happy. I'm gonna lift my neighbor up, they are not happy. If I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, I will fall down. I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not happy. I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not happy. I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not happy. If I don't lift him up, if I don't lift him up, if I don't lift him up, I will fall down. I'm gonna lift my people up, they are not happy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they are not happy. I'm gonna lift my people up, they are not happy. If I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, I will fall down.
As we go from this place, remember the power of everyday refusal. In small acts, we can disrupt injustice. In small truths, we can dismantle false narratives. In small choices, we can rebuild a more humane world. May our refusal be faithful, and may our actions reflect the justice we seek. Amen. May it be so. Ashe.